more clubs, but maybe that's because there were more clubs that were doing that kind of thing at that time, before New Brunswick really got corporate.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was the Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 New Jersey punk rock scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Other than thank you lists and CDs, fanzines were the gateway to finding out about new music. These were put together by kids in the scene who would interview bands, write reviews, and then come up with total randomness. Besides colleges, these kids were actually one of the reasons that Kinkos could exist back then. They would go there, print about 100 pages or more, staple them together, and then hand them out for free at shows, never asking for money. And I think if they did ask for money, no one would pay because we were all broke. I love these things. I would grab any zine I could find at a show and read it cover to cover just to see who I should be paying attention to. These would open my eyes to bands like Piebald, Lifetime, Coalesce, the Get Up Kids, and a shit ton of other bands. It would also open my eyes to just their random views on life, politics, veganism, the straight edge movement, and shit like that, which was pretty cool. Some of the fanzines I used to read back in the day were Annoying Girl, Braceface, 4011, Just in Time for Nothing, which was more of short stories than it was an actual zine. And one of my favorites was aNNOYANCe by Anthony Schorr. Now, according to the Google, aNNOYANCe was created in 1990 by two bored kids, Anthony and Eric. The initial issue had a print run of 25 and included info on Pez, yo-yos, records, and annoying your older siblings. Anthony kept it going from there, adding in band reviews, root beer reviews, random commentary on nonsense, and perhaps most famously, the wombat drawings by bands or zines. There were 24 issues in total over the next 12 years, and a 25th issue, which was never published, as it was lost in a hard drive crash. I was lucky enough to get Anthony on the phone during a busy Friday, and in this interview, we talk about how his brother made the first Bouncing Souls shirt designs, how he started off with a college radio show called The Hurdy-Gurdy Show, how he came up with the name aNNOYANCE, who his favorite interviews were, how he started the whole wombat section in each issue, how he got Moby to draw a wombat, his love for root beer, his thoughts on seeing Jawbreaker recently after seeing them 4 or 5 times back in the day, his record label, will he ever make his own root beer, and a bunch more. Now, before we begin, it seems like there's always some technical issues in these episodes, and there's a few parts where there's this buzzing sound in the background. It's basically Anthony's phone getting messages. I did my best to cut them out. There's not that many, so fuck it. Also, I added a donate button to the website, which is thiswasthescene.com. If you'd like to donate anything from $1 to more than $1, that would kind of kick ass. This just helps me pick up the cost for hosting this thing on Libsyn, and I would also like to get this back up on SoundCloud, which is like $15 a month. So I'm just not going to be spending that because I have too many other fucking things I got to spend money on. Big thank you to David Bettino for giving me tips on adding compression to the audio so it sounds bigger than it would if I did not do that. You should go check out his website at davidbettino.com. He does awesome photography. He also owns the Tannery out in Stanhope, New Jersey, where there's a photography studio. You can film video there, and there's also a recording studio if you're a band, so you should go definitely check it out. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. Anthony, thank you for joining me on this somewhat gloomy North Carolina day, even though you are in New Jersey, correct?
I am indeed. It's a little gloomy here, but not too bad. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. This is awesome. I'm glad you took the time. It's getting people on the phone has been a bit of a feat, to say the least.
I can imagine, yes.
Yeah,
grown-up responsibilities and all now.
Let's go back. Let's talk about how you initially got involved in the punk scene.
Let's see. I guess my brother was into, the punk rock back in the day, probably like 86 or so. He started going to shows and whatever, and then playing stuff for me he thought I might like. I would, steal his records and tapes and.
What was one of the? What was like one of the main tapes or records you would steal? Do you remember?
I like the Dead Kennedys and Butthole Surfers a lot. Then I stole the Descendants record, and that kind of made me more dedicated to this scene. My brother would play me stuff, he'd play me ska, and I was like, oh, this is stupid, like circus music, and I just wasn't into, and then like when he saw I liked Descendants, he started, buying me all the Cruise records and like things, Big Joe Carr and Chemical People and stuff. And one of his best friends was really into Descendants and all, so he would take me to shows. And then my brother was friends with like the Bouncing Souls when they were starting out.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like it was big like in the punk rock scene around here at least to take the graphic arts class and high school.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd be able to print T-shirts and stuff in class. So he made like the first Bouncing Souls T-shirts.
Seriously?
Back in like '87. Yeah.
Holy
I think
crap!
I have one somewhere. I'll have to look for it. Because they grew up, it was like a town over from. I grew up in Warren, and they were from, Baskin Ridge in that area. So he was friends with them then, and Sticks and Stones when they were starting out. I know my brother was, corresponding with Pete and all them.
Holy shit!
So then, yeah, I mean, my brother brought me to my first show was really the Bouncing Souls and some of my brother's friends' bands, like in a church, and I think it was in Bernardsville in like '87, '88, something like that. So yeah, I just started to, get into that kind of stuff more. And then just, met people in high school who were into the same stuff and started going to shows, a lot of the Maxwell's and City Gardens down in Trenton.
Back when Hoboken was pretty scary.
Yeah, it was a little sketchier back in the day. Yeah. Had to, but it was cool. It's a good time. I was, at Maxwell's or City Gardens probably almost every weekend from like 1990 to when stuff ended there, 94, 95, I guess.
Where is Warren in Jersey? Is that more west?
More west of what?
About Basking Ridge. I'm going to Basking Ridge. It's
like
more west of just anything.
There are things that are east of it, yes. It's like near, what's around there? Summit, Watchung, Sterling, Bridgewater's nearby.
Oh, okay. So it's down 287, basically. It's 287, 78 where they meet, or?
Right off 78, yeah. Exit 40 was my street I grew up on.
Okay.
Yeah, then I went to, college in '92, went up to Vassar and Poughkeepsie, and started a radio show there, and, met some other punk rockers and, the scene in that area. I mean, it wasn't much of a scene, I guess, more, kids at school, and my best friends then was in Mind Over Matter, the Long Island hardcore band, so, got to know all that kind of guys in that area and that scene too, the, Silent Majority and those kind of guys, Big Sniff and other, pop punk bands coming out of Long Island. I mean, there was some Jersey bands at the time, Frisky's Revenge and One Nature and stuff. So, I was going to their shows and stuff when I was coming back home, and it was, good times. There was less, I feel like, a local scene. There's less, local shows. It wasn't like the VFW shows. Once in a while, but not as much as happened probably like 97 or something. Started, I guess, 96.
Yeah.
I feel like, to me at least, maybe there was more that I wasn't as aware of. But I graduated college in 96. By then, even up in Poughkeepsie, I had my radio show, but there was like a gazillion people calling into my show. I had like the most popular, raised the most money for the fund drive every year.
Oh, that's awesome.
And whatever, made my own shirts and cool. Yeah, it was good stuff. It was fun. It was always weird to, go to the mall and people come up to you. Because my show was called The Hurdy-Gurdy Show, and I never, oh my God, you're hurdy-gurdy. I was like, how do you know? Why are you talking to your friends? I was like,
how do they actually know to recognize you if you were on a radio show? Like, I never knew what the people who ran the shows looked like.
Well, that was the whole thing. I was, at the mall talking to my friends, and like, I know that voice, and they're, they'd figure it out.
They're like, you're the movie phone guy, or what was that old school, whatever that shit was.
Indeed.
You have a very interesting voice. So your first show was the Souls at the Bernardsville, like Elks Lodge, or church?
I think it was like a rescue squad or something. Yeah, that was my first, like, any, rock show at all.
This is before they even put out any records?
Yeah. Like their 7-inch came out a little bit after that. I think it was like their second show ever or whatever, so.
Holy crap.
it's a good time.
I didn't realize you had such a connection to the Souls.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I met them all over time. I don't think they'd like know me at this point, but if I was like, oh, my brother or whatever, they'd be like, oh yeah, Rob. And so it's kind of a more secondary.
I think so if anyone listening, I mean obviously I think they know who you are, but Anthony had a zine, aNNOYANCE fanzine, or just aNNOYANCE zine. And I remember when we started playing, we were Congress of Cow at the time when we started playing shows, and just the whole thing with zines. I kind of lucked out because I got into the scene. You got involved in it when it was starting, basically. There was the old school punk, the 80s punk, where it was CBGBs and all that shit and just dive bars, and then it kind of progressed into more of the local scene. It might have been happening, but I mean it became more of a thing through the 90s, but it was still growing. And I remember I got involved in it because the guys in my band were listening to all this stuff, and then they had heard about it from Alan from Flipside.
Sure.
And he had talked about these shows, and I think I was doing another I was talking to Josh from Humble in the last episode, and I was saying I started off, I was a big fan of Tool and all this like metal and stuff, and then Chris, who was the singer of Congress Cow, he was huge and just started getting into NoFX and Pennywise, and so when we go to these shows, all this music and stuff, I was kind of like, yeah, it's kind of cool, like I like playing it, but it's not really like my thing. So I feel like I kind of lucked out because of his passion for it. He brought me in right at this like sweet spot where it was starting to take off, but it didn't become too huge, and we just lived in this 3-year span where it was awesome.
Right, definitely.
So I lucked out on it, but I mean, you saw it from, before any of that was happening. Where I mean, I'm guessing there was like not that many people at these shows.
Yeah. No, I mean, it depended. I mean, there's some, you go Frisky's Revenge shows or One Nature or whatever, and there'd be a decent amount of people. You get 50, 100 people, but it was a lot of.
Was it a different vibe?
People their friends like from high school or whatever, and be shows like Obsessions where it's like pay to play.
Yeah.
And whatever, you had to sell, 100 tickets to even be able to play or whatever. So it was just kind of. It was a smaller scene, I guess, to me, but it's perhaps I wasn't as knowledgeable what was going on. Because there was stuff going on like in New Brunswick and house shows and stuff at like the Soul's House or Sticks and Stones were playing a lot, or Lifetime.
Uh-huh.
They were always playing. I mean, like the Melody or the Court Tavern would have shows all the time. So you go to that stuff a bunch, but it was less, I guess the kids doing it. It was less DIY, I guess, to me, in my mind. Wasn't as many, VFW hall shows and stuff like that. It was more clubs, but maybe that's because there were more clubs that were doing that kind of thing at that time, before New Brunswick really got corporate, I guess.
Yeah, and then imploded.
Yeah, or even Maxwell's and stuff. There was, some local band shows there. Not as much, but
yeah,
someplace else to play.
I mean, the point, I was kind of like, where am I going with that point I was trying to make? Basically, when I got involved, I came in when things were right in the middle, and one of the things that I noticed were these magazines or these little pamphlets being passed around that people were spending $1, $5 or whatever it was on them. And I remember it caught my eye. It was between you. There was Braceface that I think that Evan from Random Task, I think he had put that one out. Yeah. Then there was Annoying Girl, which I hadn't read until I had met Kelly through Josh, but I'd heard about her zine, and everyone was like, "Oh, Annoying Girl." She talked, I think she interviewed Trey Cool one time, and one of them, or But when yours came around, I remember, I don't want to go too far ahead, but there was just something about it that it was just different, and I liked it so much. But so what made you start it? Did you see other zines that you liked, or did you want to be a writer? Like, what got you to start doing aNNOYANCE?
Let's see. I started aNNOYANCE in 1990.
And what brought the name up?
So it's more.
I want to know what the name. How'd you get the name too?
Well, I started actually with my best friend because we were like the little brothers. Like our big brothers were best friends, and me and him were best friends. So we were always, the annoying little brothers. So we would like latch onto that, and we had the this whole, we made T-shirts of like how annoying we were. This
Oh my
born
God.
to annoy, live to annoy to destroy, just to be like these annoying little brothers. So it's like, oh, zine and annoyance, that's what's got to be. So
That's amazing.
put out the first issue together. It was, just silly stuff like what's, pinball reviews and records and just like where the cool playgrounds were around to like go hang out at night or whatever, and stuff like that. It's kind of, I mean, I don't think we had, maybe I didn't. I think, no, second zine I had an interview. So just whatever I felt like writing about. It was just something to do.
Mm-hmm.
My mom copied 50 copies at her job or whatever. Try to be sneaky or something. And then I think, we didn't do it for like a year. And then I went to college and, he was a couple years younger, so he stayed home. So I was like, oh, do you mind if I keep doing this by himself? And he's like, oh, no, not at all. So I just kind of kept going and did it at the copy shop at school until they, said I couldn't do it anymore there because it wasn't anything to do with school. So, and in those days, there was no fancy enough email addresses or whatever. So I would send interview questions, type them out, and print them, with a self-addressed stamped envelope, and hope you get something back. And so I don't know, probably get it was a pretty decent return rate. I'd probably 75% of what I sent out came back, but I was like, let me send one to Sam I Am. I thought they were awesome, my favorite bands at the time, and they replied and drew me cool wombats and stuff. So I was super psyched on that. So it was kind of over the years, figured out what worked for me, what I like, and I had yo-yo reviews for a while, but then no one else seemed to care about that except me. So dropped that feature.
How did you figure out the format, that just the cut of the sizing of it? Because it was very horizontal. It was almost like rectangular, and all the other zines were as if you took if you took like 8.5 by 11, turned it sideways, and folded it. Yours was like it stood out differently, and it also always had a hard cover that always seemed to have different colors. So there was like the one interview that we had that you did with us, I still have it, and it was like a blue heavier stock outside, and then the inside were all black and white pages. So how'd you come up with that?
At first I think I did the normal size, but then as I started to have to pay for it more, like I make 11 by 17 copies for the same price as 8.5 by 11. So you get 2 on one sheet. So I could print twice as many for the same price. So I was like, I may as well do it sideways because, I don't know, just no one was doing that, and it seemed like it'd be fun to do. And my dad had a lot of tools, so he had this big sheet metal cutting machine, so I could cut them easily on that, so I didn't have to worry too much about having it be small and cut along, the short way. So it just was something to be distinct and stand out to make it the weird dimension. Although there's a couple times I did a full 11 by 17 size issue for, I think, when I interviewed the Descendants. I think that was my 20th issue or something. Just because I was psyched to finally get to interview the Descendants.
Oh my God, yeah.
And but there's a couple. I mean, I wanted some kind of, not just a white cover and stand out more, so I'd always pick a different, fluorescent color for the cover. And did the one of like the, what was it? I was at work because I worked at AT&T for a while.
Okay.
And they had all these, like in the supply room, all these photocopiable overhead projector sheets. And like no one's ever using it. And it was past the point of people actually using overhead projectors. So I would go around to all the supply rooms and, borrow or whatever, 5 or 10 each day. So nobody would notice that whole box was gone. So eventually you get 500 or whatever. And so I made the one issue was like, I had an optical illusion on the cover too. So that one was one where it was like a telephone poles, like a perspective thing. So if you looked off the plastic part, you could see the telephone poles are all the same size. When you fold it back down, they looked like, the tall one. The furthest one was the tallest. And
oh my God, that's awesome.
so it's just trying to do something different.
When you
but that was a big thing.
What like how did you lay it out? Because if I'm looking at it now, I know the digital way to lay out something. And so I mean that must have been some trial and error, because you have to know that the first page that you're when you're stacking these, the one in the very bottom is page 1 and then the last page. Right?
Yeah.
So how did you
you make a
Well, how'd you lay it
yeah.
out? Like did you basically just put all these together and then literally write every page as is and then go make photocopies, or did you have it outlined on paper first and then apply it to the layout?
I mean, because it was on my 17, I would all my stuff out and figure out how many pages I had, and then kind of write in pencil what I would go on each page. Page 1 is intro and contents, and start record reviews on this page and how long it's going to be. So I'd make like a mock-up, on paper, and then print the stuff out. And since it was like 2 on 1 sheet, I would, there's probably 2 versions of a lot of the stuff, because I would use like comic books and cartoons and whatever stuff I had as the background. So I'd print out the record reviews and stuff and cut them out and put them onto, glue magazines and comics to the page, and then glue my stuff on top of it.
Yeah.
And start photocopying from there. So, but yeah, it just is have a mock-up and lay it out after that.
How long did it take you to do one issue? And were you doing a monthly?
No. I tried to do like 4 a year, a seasonal thing. Just it took time to, especially in those days, I would do a lot of phone interviews, and transcribing it would take a long time, and just, getting records to review and ads and all that stuff, and distributing it, and even assembling it would take weeks, just because you had to cut them all, then take each sheet and collate it and stapling. It just took a while to do each part of it. So
did you get a lot of CDs sent to you? Because remember when Kelly, Josh, Jeremy from High Strung, then Humble, Heiner, who was in my band, and then Sean from Lanemeyer, they all lived together for like a couple months in the summer. I think it was 98. And Kelly would always come over because she was dating Josh, and she would always have this just crate of CDs that were being sent to her. Was that so? I remember that because she would have to interview them as well. Did you get a lot of CDs sent to you from bands where they would just see your address on the zine and just send them and say, hey, review this? Or were you asking bands if you could review their record?
I don't think I ever really asked many bands. I mean, labels just would send me stuff, and so I get some from bands occasionally, not that often. It's more of the labels who send me stuff. I would guess that 5-6 years where I was doing it pretty seriously, get a couple CDs a day, I would think.
Wow.
And so
did you not have to buy CDs back then? Like, were they just like, did you find that you were saving money by not having to buy CDs?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I try to support local bands and whatever touring bands, so still buy stuff. Because it wasn't always, the big labels send me stuff, Epitaph and Lookout and Fat Wreck and stuff like that. But smaller labels wouldn't, so I'd still try to review their stuff, or local bands, 7 inches and demo tapes and, whatever. So, but I mean, also a lot of that time period I was working at radio station. I was the music director, so I got a ton of CDs that way for free. So it's kind of a ridiculous time period.
So who was one of your favorite interviews?
That's a good question. Let me see. I mean, Descendants was definitely awesome because it was when I first came back, reunited, and I was super excited. And, emailed Bill, the drummer, and I was like, oh, would you possibly do an interview? He's like, definitely. It's awesome. And so that was very cool to, emailed him a little bit and talked to him on the phone. It was just, super nervous fanboy. And that was exciting. I'm not sure. Shades Apart was very cool because he Ed, the drummer, and he just kept emailing me after that. And Colin Sears, actually, that was really awesome because I was just a huge Diag Nasty fan at the time. And then I liked a lot of his bands after that, too. Los Vampiros and the Bloodbaths and other stuff he was in, and he just started the Marshes. So I was just talking to him about old like nasty stuff is super cool and fun.
That's awesome.
And then it's cool to interview the local bands who were excited to talk to me. I was like, why? Excited to talk to me. This is, little fanzine guy, whatever. And it was funny to, make a big deal to somebody else, I guess.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the one thing. There's always the kids in the crowd who were, there and part of the scene, but there's always the people that contributed. And I think that it made them, didn't celebritize them, but it just made them stand out. They'd be like, oh man, there's Anthony aNNOYANCE, or, or there was always that, that merch table that wasn't a band, and they'd always sell, like just CDs. They're like, oh, there's that dude who's like fully tattooed and giant dreads, and he's always at every show. Yeah, man. So I mean, I remember always being excited to get the zine. What did you sell it for anyway?
At first it was 25 cents, but then I just gave up and gave it away, so it was free.
Was it really? I always thought that we paid money for it.
No, I thought first couple of years I tried to get a little bit to recoup something, but then I started selling ads more, and so that just kind of broke even. Maybe lost a little money, but got a lot of free CDs, so it worked out. So
that's right, they were free. I remember that they always all the zines did say free. And for some reason, I thought they'd be like a couple bucks, but I mean, I guess back in the day, we never had any money. We'd be spending it at the diner. We'd have $5 to our name, and we'd be smoking cigarettes and eating French fries and water.
Yeah, right.
The show. Did you have a
share?
Yeah, share and everything. Did you have any really shitty interviews?
It's definitely a couple, because I always tried to have silly questions and didn't always have much to do with the band. Mm-hmm. So sometimes people had no idea what they were going into. Because I would usually, like when Warped Tour started, and then the first few years of that, I would go to that, and they started to have band interviews during it. So usually do a couple then, and all those bands didn't have any idea what they were, because it's always live interviews. Mm-hmm. So trying to think, I interviewed NoFX actually, that never even got published. My hard drive crashed for that last issue.
Oh no!
So it never came out, and they were just not very happy. It's just like, what kind of questions are these?
Really?
And I was like, it's just you would think NoFX would be funny and whatever, but I think it was Eric I interviewed, the bassist, and he just wasn't like.
Wait,
maybe he was just tired from a
guitarist.
Day of interviews. Guitarist, yeah.
You don't make that fatal flaw.
Very true, very true. So that means there's another one at Warped Tour, but I'm not even sure who it was. It might have been Rancid.
Was that the Warped Tour where it was at Asbury, or not Asbury Park? Yeah, there was Asbury Park. There's also
Asbury Park.
Okay, yeah, because when it first came, it was at Action Park. Did you go to that one?
Okay, I don't know. The first one I went to was down Asbury Park.
Okay, and then you said it was like
96 or something,
yeah.
97. Yeah, like L7 and Quicksand and stuff. Yeah, Rancid, I don't know. They were just weird. I think they did it, but there's very short answers, and it was very rushed, and I just didn't feel like they were, into it at all. I thought it would be more of a change of pace, different questions than what they're getting asked all day, every day, but just were not fans of my style of interviewing.
Do you still have copies of all the issues?
Oh yeah, probably. I think I've tried to clean up a lot in the past few years, so I probably had, I don't know, at least 100, maybe not 100, but a good amount of every one, and some I had more of just because I never got them out as much as I should have. But I think I have at least 10 of probably most issues. Got a big box of aNNOYANCE stuff. Say the originals, just in case, I need to reprint them as a book at some point or something.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing. That'd be so awesome.
Box of wombats as well.
Yeah, so talk about the wombat. That was going to be my next question. What started that? And I remember that was one of the funniest things, because we'd see Less Than Jake did a wombat, and then all these different bands, and when we drew one, I think we might have given it like a large dick or something like that. I don't know, or did we do something adult? But yeah, what started it?
Let's see. I used to collect comics a lot, high school and middle school and whatever. I'd go to comic shows, and they'd have artists signing and stuff. So friend of mine would always ask the artist to draw a cow, or whoever was comic person was, a writer or something. So they would draw. He had this big wall of cows. So I was like, I don't know, that's really funny. I'll ask bands to draw a wombat because people know what a wombat is. Kind of. They heard the word. They know it's an animal usually, but most people don't know what it looks like.
Yeah.
So I thought it was something, I don't know, more fun to do. So just started from there. But I don't know. I enjoyed it, and bands seemed to like it on the whole. They're often pawned it off on their most artistic bandmate. If I, came up to them like, oh, I, do the zine and bands draw wombats for me. Could you draw one? They're like, oh, I don't know what that is. Like, well, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Try to do something or what you think it is. So
Did anybody ever nail
got
it?
a lot of penises and some people were really knew what a wombat was, so it worked out. I got a lot of baseball bats with wings, things like that, and whatever. But it's all good. But there's definitely some good ones. Brett from Joystick drew me a whole bunch of wombats one time, and Brian from Matthew Soul, when he was doing chunk saw a lot, whenever they'd send me stuff, he would often draw a wombat like on the envelope or something.
Did people still do that? Did people, like random people who know you back in the day, if they give you like a birthday card or some random thing, they just include a wombat?
Not too often, once in a while, but not maybe once a year. Maybe I'll get a new wombat. I always ponder because I started a website of all the wombats.
Really?
It's like wombatofdoom.com.
Is it still
might
up?
still be up. I'm not sure.
I'm going on it right now.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'll have to look. But
I'm looking right
I was like,
now.
I should keep that going and write to bands now and try to get more wombats. But
oh my god.
the funniest is when I was at CMJ when that was actually a thing for the radio station, and they had different signings with bands and stuff. So I went to go see Moby, who was signing. I'm like, oh, could you? Because he, if I don't know, have you ever seen Moby's stuff? When he signs stuff, he always draws this little weird guy.
Okay.
I was like, okay, draw a wombat for me, and he's like, oh, yeah, sure. And drew his little weird guy with like wombat ears and paws and stuff. So that was quite exciting to me.
That's kind of badass. That's pretty great.
Very amusing.
Do you?
I guess as a somewhat grown up, I feel weirder going up to bands these days and be like, yo, can you draw a wombat for me? And like, what?
Oh man, I think that'd be awesome.
I guess I should.
You should totally start that again, man. You should have a website where people just submit it by uploading an image and then you put it on or something. That would be great. Especially, I think that like I said with this podcast, it's the demographic who's really going to listen to it are just people who are going to like want to reminisce from back in the day. So even that alone would I think they'd appreciate something like that. I would totally check that out. I think it would be hilarious. Again, it'd be another venture where you'd be doing something and not getting paid for it and just putting it out there,
Punk rock's about.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of.
What do you still, and actually, I think when you and we like reconnected, I mean, obviously everyone connects through Facebook, but I think I even asked you something about a wombat in the initial conversation. I always say something about wombats to you when I'm like conversing in some manner.
Nothing wrong with that. They're a fine animal. One of my favorites.
What's up with the root beer? I know that's still a thing with you.
Yeah. Let me see. I mean, I never drank, so I guess in high school and stuff, my friends were always, not all my friends, but some of them would drinking and doing whatever their escape of choice, I guess. So I would get a 40 root beer and just be silly and whatever. And then in college, same kind of thing, but I had more friends who were following the straight edge sort of philosophy, if they call themselves that or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so just sort of expanded. And then I graduated college. I took the summer off and took a bus all around the country and realized there was all these microbrew root beers all over the place. I started buying whatever I could and review them, write it down, and send back the empty bottles to my house and whatever. And then that just kind of took off because I had started a website for my zine, and then just for fun, had another website which has died off since. But I was like, oh, let me start a root beer review website, because it wasn't really a very good one at that point. So I think it's like '96 I started that, just writing up the reviews and that I had put in the zine or other ones. So just something to do, something else. I liked root beers, and I liked this underground independent world of brewers going and making different things. And so it was just a fun and sort of punk rock sort of thing, I guess, to me, that this DIY ethos and philosophy was going on in the soda world as well. It's not making much money, but doing what you enjoy and love and want to spread your love, your passion for the world. So yeah, it still goes. I new root beer review every Monday.
Oh wait, so this is still happening.
Yeah. Rootbeerbarrel.com is still alive.
Rootbeerbarrel.com?
Yep.
I'm going to that right now.
Oldest, largest root beer reviewing site in the galaxy.
You gotta do something about that logo.
I do it. I debate hiring somebody to actually redesign my site. I'm like, I have no money. And
you gotta definitely keep it like this. Holy Christ, man. This thing looks like it was just launched in 96. Since 96. Jesus. That's amazing. It looks like a GeoCity site.
I should be insulted or not. I've redesigned it several times.
Where's the GIF guy who walked across and pees on things? Remember that guy? I think we had that on the Lane Wire.
Yeah.
I think we had that on the Congress Cow website. Wow. I'm totally just shitting all over this, but I'm totally not. This is amazing. Wow.
This is your industry, so it's more what you know about.
Yeah.
Not something I focus on as much as I should.
Do you have a Google Analytics on this thing to see how much traffic you get to here?
Yeah. These days, it's strangely my traffic has gone way down the past couple of years. I'm not sure why. I was getting probably not a ton of people, probably 400 or 500 unique visits a day, but now it's probably down to 200 or something like that. So.
Wow, and you just posted.
Whatever.
You literally just posted on February 26th. February 19th.
Every Monday. Monday morning.
That's amazing. I didn't realize they had this much fucking root beer. There's 800 posts in here or something. Root beers, 561. Jeez. I'm getting off track. All right, so as the zine, when did you stop doing it?
I'd say 2001, I think, 2002, something like that. aNNOYANCE 25 was going to be the last one. I actually bought a photocopy machine. I was on Deuce myself because it was hard to get good deals at Kinko's anymore. And then I did the one issue 24 on my copy machine. I was like, this is awesome, it's so much cheaper. And then the copy machine broke, so I had to get someone to come fix it, and it just cost a bunch of money. And then my hard drive crashed for 25, and it was all done. I just had to print stuff and lay it out, and I was like, I just don't want to do this.
Oh man!
I was like, well, I'll do it sometime. I'll catch up and redo everything, but just never did, because I was engaged to somebody, and then we broke up. Living with her, it's 6 years in, and she broke up with me. It's just, sad. I would think it would refocus me or whatever, have more time to do my creative things, but just never got back to it, I guess. I always intended to. I was like, I make it a webzine, so I got a website domain to do that, and just started to do it, put all my interviews up, and even transcribed a couple that never got published. But I wrote some stuff up. So I did it for a little while as a webzine, but then just wasn't that into it, so I stopped. Sent back the money for ads and stuff like that.
Oh wow! So that was in 2001.
I don't know, 2002. I would say the 10th anniversary one, I think, was number 22 or something. That was 2000. I think I did a couple. I did up to 24, so it's probably 2002. I would say that I stopped.
Did you find that the scene just? I remember that when the scene started taking a turn in the early 2000s, I just really disconnected from it because I was like, what is this shit that's coming out right now? did you think that did you feel the same way, and B, do you think that if you did feel the same way, do you think that kept also the zine from happening?
I think in a way. I mean, I felt like from, I don't know, 97 to about 2001 or so, it was just such a good scene. There was shows, at least one or two, three every week.
Yeah.
In Bound Brook, the Palace, or the Hamilton Street, or even the Court Tavern, or stuff like that. The Melody.
Mm-hmm.
The Melody closed, and then there used to be a lot of shows in New Brunswick, like Candy Street and stuff. I'd go there all the time, but then they moved out, and Hamilton Street shut down, and the Palace shut down, and just the kids. I guess a lot of kids were either in high school having bands or in college, the Rutgers bands, Worthless and stuff like that, Degenerics, and they stopped. So just, and then like the new generation, I guess, of bands, I just maybe too wasn't stuff that I liked as much. It was just, I was more into the pop punk kind of thing, I guess, and it was just this weird. I guess My Chemical Romance got really big and stuff like that, and I was just like, I just not too into this, I think. So I just stopped going to shows as much, and
actually,
whatever. So just
when I first heard My Chem's like the first CD, I really wasn't into it. But then when the second one came out, Three Cheers for Revenge, I'm like, holy shit, this is it. Kind of, there were some bands that were coming out that I couldn't stand the fashion show that was happening.
Yeah.
But then there were some bands that came out, and I was like, wow, this is actually some really good shit that's happening right now. And that was definitely one of brand new. That was really good. But it was all the sound was so different, and just, I don't know, it was like the mixture of bands that were trying too hard. And then another thing is when they'd show up, they'd be their first show, and they'd have all brand new equipment that was like $2,000 for a head and a stack or whatever, and then speakers. I'm like, learn to play that shit first, man. Like, get a combo amp and like suck in the beginning, and then when you get good, start getting the Marshall heads and the all of this crap. But I was like, Jesus Christ! And they'd have full sleeves of tattoos. I'm like, my God, you're 18. Like, what the hell's happening right now? It's like, you got to earn that shit. That's kind of my take on it. That's my old man rant.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Where, it's just, I guess when that kind of stuff got more popular, and these bands are on MTV and radio more often, it just got more kids into it. I mean, that was happening for a while as a progression, but I think it reached a critical mass where it was just got kind of ridiculous, and the whole neon thing, and I don't know, I just wasn't into it.
Yeah.
So the style and the bands, just, it wasn't as appealing. There were, good bands I liked in that time period too, but it wasn't as much what appealed to me about the scene. It was just kids not appreciating that there's, 50 or 100 kids they don't know at a show. It's like, why are there not more kids, or why are we not headlining? It just got to be too much, I don't know, assumption, or like, dude, entitled to this immediate greatness, I guess. Because I know what's happening to some bands, but not everybody. And I just felt like kids didn't earn what they, I guess similar to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Didn't want to earn what they were trying to get.
Do you remember the last local show you ever went to?
I mean, I still go to shows occasionally. It's not.
Oh, did?
Not go to shows.
No, like, I mean, outside of the clubs. I mean, I haven't been to a Legion Hall show. I went to one. I moved to California after Lane Meyer broke up, and then I moved back.
Yeah.
No, I came back to visit, and I think Chris had moved back and started a day at the fair, and they played a show. So I was visiting, and I went with them to some local show. I remember on the way there, I was like 22 at the time, 23. And I remember just drinking in the van on the way there, which was new because I never usually did that. I never drank before we played. And I'm at this show, and I'm like, they're playing, but it just, the vibe was so different, and I hated it. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like drunk as hell watching them play. And I just felt this giant shift of what was, and then what was happening in front of me. And it totally turned me off.
Yeah. I guess, no, I definitely have those moments too. Then I'll go to another show, and I guess I don't really go that many, Legion Hall shows or house shows in quite a while. Probably been 5-6 years since I've been to it. Yeah, anything that's not like a club show or even a small club. I don't even know the last house show or something I went to. Like when Jettison did a couple of reunion shows, just quite a while ago now, probably almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That it was just, I just felt like it didn't belong anymore. Like the other bands are playing, like kids into them and whatever. I was like, I don't even know who this band is. You just feel old and out of it, I guess. So,
yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, then like you got other shows, but I guess a lot of the shows I go to are more like reunion shows or like bands I liked back in the day shows or whatever.
Yeah.
But some bands I still, newer bands I definitely am into and will go see as much as I can, but they're still, not local bands.
Did you go to the Jawbreaker reunion that just happened like the last 2 nights?
Yeah, I went. Yeah.
How was it?
Yeah, I went Monday. It was good. It was fun. A lot of old people, but they were definitely it was weird because I've seen them probably say 4 or 5 times besides this. So I've never really seen them on much of a stage, probably not more than like 100 people. So it was definitely a different experience. They're huge banner and light show and whatever, but or similar stage banter or whatever. So it was good. It was fun.
The only show I bummed I didn't get to see was at the Drive-Ins reunion. But I watched the video with them at Coachella from a few years back, and I was a huge At the Drive-In fan, and I remember seeing them. Man, what was that? There was some club in New York I always go to that it wasn't CBGB's. I actually never went to CBGB's. I never gave a shit. There was some club that was awesome. I saw At the Drive-In play there with Jimmy Eat Worlds in I think 98 or 99, and no one knew who the hell they were. And it was like maybe 3 of us who actually gave a shit that At the Drive-In was on stage. But that was it back in the day. And then seeing them, and then they had it was the greatest stage presence I've ever seen in my life. They just went completely apeshit. And then I saw the video of them playing at Coachella, and they were kind of standing there, and it just seemed like sometimes it's just stay broken up or don't reunite unless you're the Refused. The Refused, when they got back together, I saw that show. That was insane. They were so fucking amazing. And they still had it, which was incredible. But a lot of these bands, they get on stage and it's like they're propped up. It's like you're like, ugh.
Yeah, At the Drive-In, I was never huge into. Like my girl in college was from El Paso, and she was friends with them. So, 95, 96 or whatever, she's playing their demo, and I was like, oh, this is really good. This is awesome. I play my radio show and stuff, and. I should play like VHS tapes for them. Like, wow, they're, seriously rocking out. But video, they didn't come to the Northeast for a while, as far as I knew. But they, a couple times I saw them. I think they, like Ricky put on after the show, like Wayne Fire or something.
Yeah.
Nutty like that.
So I got a couple more questions, and I'm going to let you go. But if you were young Anthony in the scene that exists today in New Jersey, would you, and you actually gave a shit about it, would you do a zine? And if so, would it be paper or online?
It's hard to say. I would like to say I would want to do a paper because I just like actual physical things. I don't like reading ebooks and stuff like that. I'd want to have the thing and hold it and have something that to me, I touched every page of every issue of every zine I put out. In some form, my hands were on it. So I like that aspect of doing the zine, and I might have a, web form as well, but I think I definitely would want to have a hard copy, but it's hard to say if I was, came up now and have a totally different philosophy on stuff and outlook, and not having grown up with hard copy zines, reading Maximum Rock and Roll or whatever, Jersey Beat or whatever the, different zines were that I read as a kid, thinking I could do this, this is awesome. Maybe I would think, hey, these web zines are awesome too, and it's a little easier, but I like the hard copy, so I would like to think I did a actual physical paper zine.
I like that. Is there anyone that you never got to interview?
No, there's definitely a lot of bands I'd want to interview and never came to pass.
But like a specific one where you were trying to interview them and it didn't happen, or you were like, man, I really should have reached out to them because I would have loved to have interviewed them.
I think so. I mean, like Bad Religion, I definitely wanted to interview. It's never happened. I tried. I emailed Brett Garowitz or whatever for a while because when he was running Epitaph, it just never came to pass. When they were at Warped Tour or something, it just wasn't the times that I could do or whatever. And I don't know. I mean, some other local bands and stuff I would have wanted to interview. It's never really happened. Frisky's Revenge or other bands like I liked at the time. Even some of the Jersey pop punk bands like Boxcar never got to.
Oh,
interview.
Really? You never got to interview Boxcar?
Yeah. Nah. So a lot of there's bands like that. Even Midtown and stuff would have wanted to do that, but I don't know. It's hard to say. A lot of bands I wanted to touch base with or interview or get their take on stuff, but just never came to pass. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Even put a couple records I put out or whatever, I would have wanted to do that more, but the age of physical music sort of died exactly at the same time, so wasn't the best time to be starting a label.
Oh, like you actually would have wanted to start a label?
Well, I put out the Joystick record and the Fiction record, but then I probably would have wanted to put out more stuff.
Wait. You put out the Joystick record?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's on aNNOYANCE Records, #1. Yeah.
Holy shit. Was that the one with Stussy Crew?
No. It's See You in Jersey, and I forget what else is on there. And then like the
looking this up now.
OL Rebellion kids did and Wholesale kids did Fiction for a while.
Yep.
And so I put out their record, but then they broke up after a couple months, so that lost a lot of money, so that kind of made me lose my enthusiasm for being a label.
So wait, you put out their record and they broke up?
Well, they wanted me agreed to do it. They're like, we're going to go on tour with Save the Day. We know them well. They're going to take us on their summer tour. They made it clear that they probably weren't going to play past the summer. I was like, whatever, sell 1,000 copies. It's awesome. So record got delivered. They came and, picked up 500 or whatever. Like, we're going to go on tour. We'll sell these. And then, we'll pay you back for your costs and whatever. And actually, they took more than that. I think they took like 700 of the 1,000. But then that didn't happen. They played like 4 shows and that was it. And I never saw a penny of it. I saw I think Dave, I saw once or twice after that.
Yeah.
And he seemed like he was all like nervous. Supposed to have given me whatever, much money 15 years before that.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
But yeah, man, I know that feeling. I think Matt from Red Leader I think he still hates me and Sean because we we totally hijacked the Stories of the Big Screen record. Even this day, I don't even know how much money we owed Matt, but I think it was like a couple grand. And I always think sometimes, I literally think about this a lot, where I would say, man, I would totally go up to him if I had it and just give it to him, be like, this is the money that we totally jacked, and I'm really sorry. So one of these days when I just randomly have $2,000, if that's it, hanging around, I would totally do that.
There you go. Proceeds from this podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll start a Patreon. It would be first to keep this thing hosted because it costs $20 a month to host it on Libsyn. And then I'll start saving. But last question before we go. What is the best root beer?
Best root beer? That's a trick question. That's hard because
your favorite.
Go with
your favorite.
Appalachian Brewing Company is probably my current favorite. It's pretty local. I can get it not too difficultly.
Huh. Why don't you ever make a root beer? Why don't you ever brew one and put one out? Call it Wombat Root Beer. aNNOYANCE Root Beer.
The startup cost to make a soda is quite high.
Yeah.
So, and getting permits and stuff and it's, I don't know, I've made root beers, from extracts, and even tried to make my own a couple times, but just, it's a big process, and
Oh, I mean, obviously.
sterilization and everything is just one day. I don't know. My goal was to, not goal, my vague dream to have a micro soda and a cereal bar somewhere. So we shall see. Maybe one day I'll open up my own soda and cereal bar.
Do it up, man. Put a Patreon or some kind of Kickstarter on your root beer page.
There you go. It's a good idea. Maybe
All right,
I'll
man.
have my own root beer.
Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome. Also, you're like, wow, man, you really prompted me to do this. I'd be like, yes, I told
There you
you
go.
would.
Inspiration.